Welcome back to the 1% Better with Dr. Dalian podcast, where we focus on small, simple steps to improve your health and life. This podcast is not just about motivation, it's about giving you real, practical information to help you build the life and health you want. One small step at a time. I'm Dalian, your host, and I'm so grateful to be here with you today. And before we dive in, I want you to hear this loud and clear. No matter how stuck, frustrated, or lost you feel right now, you have the power to improve your situation. Okay? So let's start. If you're tuning into the last episode, we talk about mindset, how your thoughts shape your reality, and how to start shifting your thinking to create change in your life. And today, we're moving into another key area that affects every aspect of your well-being, and that is your body and physical health. Your health is one of the greatest assets. And I know you have heard this before, but I want you to really think about it. Because once you truly internalize this, it will change the way you care for your health in a positive way. Think about this. Without good health, everything else in life becomes harder. Your energy, feel less energy, your focus, your mood, your independence as you age, and even the ability to really enjoy life all depend on how well you take care of your body. But here's the thing. We are so used to putting our health for last. We take care of everything else first. Our families, our jobs, our responsibilities, everything but our health. And we also tend to leave our health in someone else's hands, whether that's the doctor, the healthcare system, or the insurance companies. No, I'm not saying that doctors and the healthcare system don't matter. They absolutely do. I am a doctor, and I believe in medicine. But at the end of the day, no one will ever care more about your health than you. And the problem is, we were never taught to take charge of our own health. Think about it. Most of us learned from our parents that we only go to the doctor when we were sick. It's not that they told us that. This is just what we saw. And our parents learned the same thing from their parents, and so on. It's not anyone's fault. It's just how we were conditioned to think about health. And that's our mindset around health. But that way of thinking is not serving us. And I realized that even as a doctor, I had been guilty of this too. And the truth is that health starts with you, with the choices you make every single day, and the knowledge you have about your own body. That is why in today's episode, I want to equip you with the knowledge to take control of your health. We are going to cover why knowing your numbers matters, which lab tests give you a real picture of your health, how to advocate for yourself in the healthcare system, and what to do to start owning your health. And we are going to start with why knowing your numbers matters. Let me put it like this. Imagine if you never check your bank account, assuming everything's fine, only to wake up one day and then realize you're drowning in debt. Sounds crazy, right? But that's exactly how most people treat their health. They don't check their numbers. They assume everything is fine because they feel okay until one day they're sitting in a doctor's office with high blood pressure, pre-diabetes, or even something worse. And guess what? I was guilty of this too. I'm a doctor, and for years I wasn't tracking my own numbers the way I should have been. But here's the truth. Just like money, prevention is key. The earlier you know what's going on in your body, what's happening in your body, the better decisions you can make to protect your health or improve it and even optimize it if you want to. And that's why today we're going to talk about key biomarkers that are going to give you a clear picture of your metabolic health. These are not the only tests that matter, but they are some of the most important ones to monitor regularly because they give you valuable insight into how your body is functioning. It's going to help you track progress over time if you're making changes. And it's going to show you where to focus your efforts if you want to improve your health. Every year when we go for our physicals, we typically get some standard lab work done. So depending on your age, your lifestyle, and family history, your doctor may order tests like a complete blood count, a comprehensive metabolic panel, a TSH, standard lipid panel, a hemoglobin A1C, a urinalysis, and a vitamin D levels. And these are great starting points, but they do not give us the full picture of our metabolic health. There's some key labs missing. Now, before I mentioned these missing labs, I want to highlight something that really shocked me when I first heard of it. So, according to a study done not too long ago, this was 2019, only 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. Only 12%. So that means 88% of people, almost 9 out of 10, are metabolically unhealthy or metabolically unfit. But when you think about it, it makes sense. How many people do you know who have diabetes, high blood pressure, or have had a heart attack or stroke? Like most of us have family members or friends struggling with these conditions. And for me, this is personal. I have a strong family history of cardiovascular disease and stroke. My relative has had strokes as early as their late 30s, and both of my grandfathers and two of my aunts passed away in their early 50s due to heart disease and stroke. And I know I am not alone in this. This is why knowing if you are metabolically healthy or not matters, because metabolic dysfunction is what is going to lead to conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. And we don't want it. We want to avoid it as much as possible. So being metabolically unhealthy means that you have one or more risk factors that increase your chances of developing those chronic diseases. And that include high blood sugar, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDL, which is the good cholesterol, and a large waist circumference. And I could dedicate an entire episode just to breaking this down further. But for now, I just want you to have this knowledge as a foundation. Today, we're going to focus on the lab tests that help us assess metabolic health so you can start tracking where you stand and then take action if you need it. One of the biggest misconceptions is that metabolic health only applies to people who are overweight, but that's not true. That same study found that less than half of underweight adults and only about a third of people with a normal weight were actually metabolically healthy. So being thin does not necessarily mean you're healthy. And tracking your internal health is just as important, if not more, than focusing on the number on the scale. So let's move on now to the biomarkers that will give you a solid snapshot of where your metabolic health stands. Number one, your fasting glucose. And I know you have heard this before. You get this check every year. This measures your blood sugar in the morning after not eating anything for the last 8 to 12 hours. It gives you a picture of how well your body is handling sugar. High fasting glucose can indicate insulin resistant, pre-diabetes, or diabetes. And if your body is not processing sugar efficiently, it's a red flag for metabolic dysfunction. The second one is hemoglobin A1C. And this test shows your average blood sugar over the past 3 months. It helps detect prediabetes and early metabolic dysfunction. And this is something you get done every year at your regular physical exam. Keep in mind this because we're coming back to this later on. So by the time A1C levels rise, insulin resistance has often been developing for years. A high A1C means your blood sugar has been elevated consistently, and that increases the risk of prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. Third test is fasting insulin. Very important. These tests checks how much insulin is present in your blood after fasting, and insulin is the hormone responsible for controlling blood sugar. And this is an important test, but most doctors don't check it unless you ask. And that's not their fault. It's just not part of the standard routine testing. But Elevated fasting insulin is an early warning sign of insulin resistance. Let me explain why this is important. Before someone is diagnosed with prediabetes or diabetes, their body goes through a phase of insulin resistance. This means their cells are not responding properly to insulin, so the body compensates by making more insulin to keep blood sugar levels normal. So if your fasting insulin is high, you might already be on the path toward metabolic dysfunction, even if your blood sugar looks normal. We're going to see something like this later on when I give you an example. And 4-triglycerides is a type of fat in your blood, and when your body struggles to regulate glucose, it converts excess sugar into fat, which raises triglyceride levels. So if you have high levels, it often indicates metabolic dysfunction. So when you have these biomarkers results, we can calculate the HOMA-IR score, or the homeostatic model assessment of insulin resistance. And this is a value that estimates insulin resistance using fasting insulin and fasting glucose. So if your HOMA-IR score is high, it means your body is struggling to use insulin efficiently, an early sign that you're heading toward metabolic dysfunction. Now, I want to show you an example because I want you to see why tracking your numbers to see where your metabolic health is important. I have a chart here that illustrates how metabolic markers can change over a few years. This is an example of real numbers that show fluctuations in key health indicators. Looking at the data from 2020 to 2024, we see trends in glucose, A1C, triglycerides, insulin, and the HOMA-IR, all of which are critical markers of metabolic health. Let's break it down. As you can see, your glucose, which is your fasting blood sugar, has fluctuated starting at 69 in 2020, then rising to 93 in 2022. So in essence, it really remains below 99, which is considered within normal range. Then you look at the A1C, which is the 3-month blood sugar average, that remains relatively stable as well, around 5.5%. And that's a little on the high side of normal, which might seem like a good sign, but A1C alone doesn't tell the full story. You're going to see. Then you look at the triglycerides that were elevated, except in 2024 when it dropped to 55. And I'm going to explain what this patient did later on, but I want you to remember this. Then we have the fasting insulin that was 8.1 in 2020, it jumped to 40 in 2023, and then it got much better in 2024 in a period span of like 9 months. So it behaves similar to the triglycerides. And then when we calculate the HOMA-IR, it rose from 1.4 in 2020 to 8.5 in 2023, and then came down to 5.2 in 2024. I want you to notice how the glucose and the A1C remain within normal range, even though this patient was developing insulin resistance, clearly seeing in the abnormal results of the insulin and the HOMA score. These numbers tell the story. In 2023, this data suggests that this patient has serious insulin resistance, and you can see it because this patient had high fasting glucose, high triglycerides, very high insulin levels, and a high HOMA score. But in 2024, there's clear improvement, especially in triglycerides, insulin, and HOMA score. And later on, I will tell you what this person did to make such a great improvement in 9 months. But if these numbers have never been checked, the person might have gone years without realizing they were heading toward diabetes or metabolic dysfunction. But because they were tracking their numbers, they could make changes and reverse some of the damage. This is why I emphasize so much in taking ownership of your health, my friends. I want you to take ownership of your health. And knowing your numbers matters is one of the first steps. And you don't have to wait until your doctor tells you something is wrong. You can start monitoring your own health. And those are the biomarkers that I find very helpful to check your metabolic health. And there's also other biomarkers as well. And those include the ones who help us check to see how is your cardiovascular health, such as the NMR lipid panel. Instead of doing a standard panel, because it gives us additional information about the number and size of lipoprotein particles in the blood, the apolipoprotein B, and the lipo-A. And another test is the HS-CRP, or high sensitive CRP, and this one measures inflammation in the body. So those are the labs that I will order besides the regular CBC, CMP, TSH, urinalysis, and vitamin D. I also want to mention that there are many other tests available that will give us more information, but I think this is a pretty good backbone of biomarkers that are going to give people a lot of information about their health, and it serves as a good starting point. Okay, so now that you know why knowing your numbers matter, here is what you can do to start taking ownership of your health. Number one, check your metabolic health. Know your numbers, right? That's the first thing. This is all what we have talked so far. If you have insurance, ask your doctor to run this test. If not, you can order them independently through labs like Rupa, Quest, or LabCorp. And if you're in a state where I practice, I'm happy to work with you. Number two, start tracking your numbers. As you start making lifestyle changes like eating differently, more nutritious food, or exercising, monitor your progress. Now, if your numbers are off, don't panic. Just take action. And remember, small, consistent changes make a huge impact over time. You don't have to fix everything at once. Pick one. Number three, keep a personal health journal. And here's what you could keep track in your journal: your symptoms and patterns. Track your symptoms, your energy levels, and any changes that you notice. This is going to help you identify patterns and advocate for the right care. Take time to get to know yourself and what works and what doesn't work specifically for you. Most people don't track their health history. Another thing to keep on your personal health journal are lab results. Don't accept your labs as normal without context. Ask for a copy of your results and learn what each marker means to have an idea. Just because something is within range doesn't mean it's optimal. I was surprised about this. I learned this within the last few years. I learned that labs come up with normal ranges by testing a big group of people and using statistics to find the middle 95%. But the problem is that this group includes a lot of people who are not actually healthy. If most of the people getting tested are overweight, inflamed, or even pre-diabetic, those numbers get factored into what's considered normal. And that is why functional medicine looks at optimal ranges instead. Because just being in range doesn't always mean you are in optimal health. Another thing to keep up there is medications and supplement, including the dosages that you take. And the other thing are any major events. If you have any surgeries, any hospitalizations, past diagnosis, all this is just going to make things easier to spot trends and to find solutions and to build a better health plan. So that's just a summary of what you could keep in your personal health journal. I also want to mention that if you feel something is off in your body, but your doctor dismisses your concerns, trust your instincts and seek another expert opinion. You have to keep in mind and the sad reality that our healthcare system operates in a reactive model, meaning waiting until you have symptoms before running tests or recommending treatment. And that is absolutely not enough to really keep ourselves in good health. Okay, we talked about testing and how to advocate for your own health, but that's just one part. Health is not just about lab tests, it's also about what you do every single day. Because those small habits, whether healthy or not, they compound over time and they're either getting you healthier or sicker. You have to remember the small habits add up to big results, and that goes either way. We all know that to be healthy, we need to eat healthy, sleep well, exercise, hydrate, and control stress. Yes, it sounds so basic, but those are the things that are going to help us get better. And because I'm all for making things simple and going for that 1% better, if you have to choose an area where to start, because just the thought of it, just the thought of changing your lifestyle makes you feel overwhelmed, start with food. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. The labs I showed you earlier, if you remember, there was a big change between September 2023 and July 2024. So what this patient did, this patient went from the traditional eat less calories and move more to only focusing on nutrition. This patient barely exercised, but it changed their meals to no processed carbs 80% of the time and more protein and healthy fat. That was it. Less processed carbs, more protein and healthy fat. That was it. That is why, if I have to choose, I will focus on improving what I'm bringing into my body. And if you look into my social media, you're going to see that I share a lot of like simple recipes that I make during the day to kind of give people an idea of the things that they can eat that are easy to do and delicious and nutritious at the same time. Your health is in your hands, my friend. No one else will care about it as much as you do. The doctors, the healthcare providers, the coaches, the nutritionists, your trainers are there to help you. But you are the one who live in your body every single day. And the choices you make every day are going to determine how well you will age. And I don't know about you, but if it's in God's will that I live a long life, I will do my part, the best I can to care for my body. So when the time comes to play with my grandchildren, I can throw myself on the floor to play with them. I can pick them up, and also I can remain independently as I age. And I know that is possible. You and I can age well. Okay, so that's it. That's it for now. And I hope you find this episode helpful. And I'm going to end it with a challenge. I don't know if you guys are doing it, but here is the challenge. I want you to take one action this week to start owning your health. So this week, I want you to contact your doctor and get your lab testing done. And remember, if you don't have a doctor, there are companies that offer these tests. I'm going to include the links in this episode description. And if you're in any of the states I practice, I'm very happy to work with you. And if you want to dig deeper into the physical health and self-care, there are some great books you can read, and I'm going to add them as well in the description of the book. Remember, you have more control over your health than you might think. The key is awareness, education, and small, consistent action. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you in the next episode where we are going to dive into the spiritual aspect of our life. Until then, stay committed to becoming 1% better every day. God bless you. Have a fantastic and blessed week.